Hello, my beautiful rock stars. It's your girl Rocqi, your revolutionary hippie from LifeIsRocqi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please scroll through my long form videos and help me get monetized. All right, so today on my polyamorous journey, we have an organization that is trying to get the bill that's to help polyamorous people, relationships, families, rejected. So yeah, we got to talk about it. So before I get into what they said, I gotta back up and go through some other things. So bear with me as I just get our bearings on this topic, okay? All right, so first and foremost, as most of you know, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in Oakland, California. Also polyamorous, and I'm legally married to a polyamorous man, and we have a polyamorous marriage, and we also have a 10-month-old child together. And in addition to me being an LMFT, my husband is also a licensed marriage and family therapist. Okay? All right. So I say all that to say, you think we have some knowledge about parenting, just, when I get to the argument they're making, just to throw that out there. But okay. So first and foremost, polyamory is not a protected right. You have to fight for these rights, and it's not currently. People have been legally evicted, fired, dishonorably discharged from the military, lost custody of their children, all kinds of things, because polyamory and other forms of ethical non-monogamy aren't a protected right. So that being said, I'm going to get into that with just explaining this. So I received news from the organization OPEN. It's the Organization for Polyamory and Ethical Non-Monogamy. Great acronym, right? OPEN. And they sent on Valentine's Day this email. Berkeley and Oakland, California have taken a monumental step forward by becoming the first U.S. West Coast cities to propose non-discrimination protections for family and relationship diversity. Once passed, these bills will prohibit discrimination in housing, business establishments, and city-supported services based on family or relationship structure. This critical legislation will provide essential protections for individuals and families who have long faced stigma and discrimination due to their non-monogamous identity or non-nuclear family arrangements. With the introduction of these bills, Berkeley and Oakland are poised to join Somerville and Cambridge, Massachusetts, as leaders in recognizing and safeguarding the rights of diverse families and relationships, tripling the number of Americans living in cities with these protections in place. So when I got that email, I was like, yes, Oakland, let's go. Stand up. I've been living here for 8 years. Like, bruh, you don't know how proud I was getting that email. Like, yes. So I'm really excited to be in this moment in history, right? We also went to an event in Oakland last year for the Day of Non-Monogamy Visibility, and it was great to be around so many non-monogamous families. There was a bunch of kids running around. We had our daughter who was like 3-4 months old by that point. So yes, it was just very exciting to see. So then the response that push forward for equality, non-discrimination, just embracing the diversity of people, was met with. The California Family Council is vehemently opposed to any measure that affirms polyamorous relationships. The push by Berkeley and Oakland to formalize polyamorous families is cultural suicide. Oops, shouldn't have said that. I'm not even monetized yet, but when I do, this might get demonetized. Said Greg Burt, Vice President of California Family Council. History and experience have shown children thrive best in nuclear father, mother, and child families. A civilization that rejects this biblical model for family life is hell-bent on its own destruction. You've just played your cards. I am not a Christian. And it's within my First Amendment rights to have the freedom of religion. So why do I have to abide by your definition of family when I have different beliefs than you? Let's put a pin in that. Let's go to this nuclear family is the pedestal of all families. So first of all, the nuclear family is a Eurocentric, individualistic concept. Basically, it's the 1950s image of the mom, the dad, the stay-at-home mom, let me clarify, the 2.5 kids, the dog, and a white picket fence, okay? I'm a Black American. That has never been my story, okay? Well, my story is all over the place. If you follow my channel, you know it. But yeah, that's the nuclear family is ineffective and also not true. Let's run it back to the Eurocentric part of this. So Europe and Eurocentrism is one aspect of the world. Then you have people of the global majority, okay? So that would be your indigenous, that would be your Africans, that would be your Asians, and everybody else in between, okay? We operate under collectivist mentality. It takes a village to raise a child is a common phrase, understood and accepted. Ubuntu, I am because we are. And an African proverb tells us, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now, all this to say, the reason that a nuclear family is ineffective is because parenting is challenging and you need breaks. You need your me time, you need your couple time, you need your friend time, your family time, like your let me involve myself in the community time. Like you need breaks. Okay? So it can't just be the mom and dad because the mom and dad need breaks, all right? Then it's actually more beneficial for the child to have exposure to other safe adults. The children feel more open to sharing things with other safe adults, not only just their parents. Sometimes it is an uncomfortability or discomfort to share things with parents, but with other safe adults, they have more freedom, more openness. They can also gain more wisdom from more trusted adults. They're exposed to more experiences, more opportunities. So it's actually beneficial to the child to have a diversity of safe adults, not just their parents. Let's see. But as far as it not actually being true, if you really function under all you need is mom and dad, there would be no babysitter, no childcare provider, no teacher, no coaches, right? No neighbors, no grandparents, no aunts, uncles, cousins, none of it. Okay? You would need no support to raise your children. You'd be staying at home, raising them. And, in the 1950s, that happened. The stay-at-home mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom myself. And also, there is a reason the stay-at-home moms left and went into the workforce, okay? Because we was tied, all right? So that, again, is not beneficial for everybody. And a stressed mama ain't good for nobody, okay? So that being said, let me sip my water. Also in Black America, we have a concept called fictive kin, which is basically your mama's best friend became your auntie. We know about that. So yeah, extended family is often in the house in people of the global majority. So that's your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, cousins, whatnot. And then we live in an age where blended families exist. Okay, you got your mom, your dad, your stepmom, your stepdad. Then, of course, same-sex marriage has been legalized. So it is not limited to a heteronormative dynamic. Okay, so to only say that is where children thrive best. Children thrive best surrounded by love. Okay, and what does polyamory mean? Polyamory means many loves. Okay, it also means multiple intimate relationships with the consent of all involved. Okay, So that being said, another kind of point that is brought up with polyamory and polyamorous families and raising children is it's not stable enough for kids. But that is functioning under the assumption that children meet every partner. And that's incorrect. Some people don't want their children meeting their partners. Some limit the amount of partners they met. And just like single parents, a vetting process takes place. Like I think people misunderstand what polyamory is. They think it's a free-for-all. They think it's sex-centered. But it is centering intimate relationships, committed relationships. So maybe learn more before you voice your opinion. But the benefits of relationships transitioning in reference to the exposure of that to children is children get to learn about life transitions. Not everything stays forever. And that's just a fact of life. There's death, there's loss, there's breakups. And through exposure to these life transitions, children learn how to cope with it all. And would you rather be able to teach them while they're growing up versus them learning the hard way as adults on their own? And then also with the emphasis of stability, even in a monogamous nuclear family, they still experience change. They change grades and teachers. They change friends. They may move and change schools, but they change schools anyway, going from elementary to middle and middle to high. The world changes around them. The seasons change. Like, they're exposed to change. They're exposed to life transitions already. Stability comes from the parents. Okay? That's who's giving them that stability. So if the parents are involved in making sure that they have that secure foundation, that is what matters. Again, love, growth. That's where I'm at with that one. All right, so the next point they made in their argument opposing is one of the many issues with this bill is that polyamory places adult satisfaction above children's welfare. Caddy Faust, the founder and president of the family advocacy group Them Before Us, has highlighted the dangers of polyamory to children. In our cultural imagination, marriage is simply a vehicle for adult fulfillment and totally disconnected from child rearing. She said, adding the introduction of even one unrelated adult into a family heightens the risk of child abuse and neglect. Polyamory advocates are disregarding the impact such relationships have on children. So again, my response is, who said the children were being introduced? Okay. And also, that is a blanket statement that it heightens the risk. There is risk regardless. Like, babysitters, daycare providers, neighbors, like it is a risk regardless. And again, that's just going from a place of fear. That's not, we have a new family dynamic. We want to make sure children are safe. So let's list out some protective factors to make sure that parents are vetting appropriately, to make sure that any adult around their child is a safe adult. That would be helpful in the event of babysitters or childcare providers or teachers or coaches and things like that, or clergymen. Just saying. Now, yes, as a licensed therapist, I have experienced a lot of adults with sexual trauma history. A lot of them have been relatives, and some of them have been like the significant other of a parent, basically an unrelated adult, but it was more related adults. with my adults who had trauma history. With my child, because I did have to make a CPS case report. In that context, it was another child or teenager. But that to say, anybody could be a perpetrator. It's not. It's usually someone that the child knows. That is more of the common pattern. But it's not necessarily. It's more like a fringe adult, an acquaintance, basically, someone they're familiar with, basically. But again, that means the monogamous nuclear family isn't trusting anybody either. That means you're secluding yourself out of that fear versus just teaching parents how to vet to make sure that we're all safe and bringing up our children in safe environments. To me, that would be a better strategy than don't do it. It's scary. Blanket statement. It's a risk. Because I know I'm going to do my due diligence just like I did my due diligence in choosing a co-parent. But everybody's not intentional in choosing co-parents prior to conception. So, anyways, let's continue. All right. So their last point was the social scientist Arthur Brooks affirms this fact, writing in the Atlantic. In 2004, a survey of 16,000 American adults found that for men and women alike, the happiness maximizing number of sexual partners in the previous year is calculated to be 1. To rebut that, in 2016, in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy, using 2 separate samples based on the U.S. Census, Harpert and colleagues found that fully 1/5 of the population in the United States, 21.9% in the first sample and 21.2% in the second sample, has engaged in consensual non-monogamy at some point in their lives. And I do want to reference that the study samples that they included in that journal had less than 5,000 people, just so you know. So, less sample size than the one that they mentioned. However, contradictory. Okay. And I would also say, within the history of monogamy, there's also a historical norm of infidelity. So, let's be consensual about our non-monogamy. But, yeah, I feel like that's very contradictory. And also times changed. That survey was done in 2004. The one that I mentioned was in 2016. And the article that referenced that study was written in 2019. So there's that. Also, the American Psychological Association has created the Division 44 Committee on Consensual Non-Monogamy, a consensual non-monogamy task force. It focuses on research, practice, and education about consensually non-monogamous relationships. These diverse forms of consensually non-monogamous relationships include, but are not limited to, polyamory, open relationships, swinging, and other types of ethical non-monogamous relationships. And I say all that to say, it's happening. So much so that the American Psychological Association wanted to commit a group dedicated to understanding this. So that way we may better help the families and relationships that come through our practice. I mean, I understand the lack of knowledge. I understand the concern. I understand the difference in belief systems and why it may not be for you. But to reject a bill, to oppose a bill that is supposed to allow protection rights for the people who exist, just seems wrong. Like, you could sit down and have a conversation with a polyamorous licensed marriage and family therapist who has a child. Or you can fearmonger Reject based on your own personal beliefs, even though no one is saying you have to do it. Now, fortunately, I'm in a housing space as well as employment space where I'm not going to face that discrimination because I'm polyamorous. But not everybody is as lucky. I'm in California. I know plenty of people in the South, even the East Coast, that can't be honest about their partners, their relationship dynamics, their families, because they can be ostracized, they can be discriminated against. Like, so that's my response. I don't know what to say. I hope this bill is passed. I feel like Oakland specifically is revolutionary enough, is full of activism, so I have hope. But we'll see. Again, it doesn't impact me as much, but I don't fight just for myself. I am always an advocate for people who are discriminated against. Because, we live in the United States where we're supposed to be all about diversity, equality, inclusion. Are all men not created equal? I'm just saying. And as a therapist, I've seen plenty of non-monogamous clients. My husband, who specializes in couples therapy, also sees non-monogamous couples. Those who are actively practicing, those who want to transition in. And some of those people happen to be parents. Oh, I forgot to say, when I started my practice, I specialized in treating children and parents and facilitated parenting classes. So, and yes, I'm polyamorous. And how I'm raising my daughter is I'm normalizing polyamory as just another form of relationships. So how I'm starting is January is the month of diversity. So we're starting with looking at different types of families. So I had a few books where they talked about, obviously it's going to be queer parents, somebody's in jail, somebody's in the military, families that are bi-coastal or international, where there's a disability in the family, and then also polyamorous families. Oh, also interracial parents and things like that. So just different types of families, different ways families can look. Oh, adoption, of course, foster care, that kind of thing. So different types of families, and polyamorous family, polyamorous relationships is just another form. Just another form. Still valid. So I'm normalizing it. And when she gets to the dating age, she can decide which relationship structure fits best for her. That's her choice. Based on who she is. So that's where I'm at, beautiful people. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope this bill gets passed, and I hope the normalization of polyamory that we are already currently in continues. It's really exciting to be a part of history. And check out my polyamorous journey playlist. It has a lot of education in there. It has a lot of my journey. I also developed a video playlist of a lot of resources when I was on my journey. I think that's just called Polyamory / Ethical Non-Monogamy. But yeah, I think this conversation is needed. I think more polyamorous need public platforms to be able to discuss these things, because there's still a lot of stigma, still a lot of ignorance, and that can really hurt us. We just people out here loving. As far as the adult satisfaction bit, this goes back to parents are people, parents are allowed to continue their lives. Like, if we're allowed to continue our passionate careers, we're allowed to have friends, we're allowed to have hobbies that all impact adult satisfaction, it's just making sure you're aware of how your children are impacted. And we also plan to prepare our child for possible discrimination from other parents or peers because their parents are polyamorous. The same thing we would have to do if, we had mixed kids or had different belief systems. Like, just because someone is different doesn't make it bad. We're just different. So talk to someone, have a conversation, ask your questions for those who have the capacity to answer. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and take care of you. Peace and love.